Earlier today, I was having a little bit of a conversation with a brother, and he brought up a really good point, or reminded me of a good point. And I thought I should talk about that right here. Most professing Christians never overcome sin because they believe that sin is their nature. They believe they were born that way. They believe they're taught that they're born inheriting this sinful nature from Adam, okay? Even though nowhere in Genesis 3 does it say anything about a curse of God being, Adam's offspring being cursed with this sinful nature. In fact, Adam's firstborn, Cain, this lie is proven false because God comes to Cain and says that, do you not know that if you do right you will be accepted, or that if you do choose evil, that sin is crouching at your door and its desires for you. So we see right there that sin is a choice and not an inherited thing that's passed on from Adam's transgression, okay? Which is what's taught by this Gnostic doctrine of original sin that was brought in by Augustine, who was a Manichaean Gnostic, which has infested Christendom with this Gnostic mindset for centuries now, okay? Because prior to Augustine, the early church all believed that we had a free will ability to choose good or evil, just like Cain inherited the ability, same ability Adam had. We've never lost that ability, okay? But my point here is when you tell people, when you brainwash people by telling them that this is their very nature, that they're born corrupted, that they're unable to obey God, that they're unable to obey Jesus' command to go and sin no more, then they have an excuse to remain in sin. And this is why when I have tried to tell others, teach others that the doctrine of original sin, this inherited sin nature, inherited sinfulness, is a lie of the devil brought in by the Manichaean Gnostic Augustine, they will rail against it. And they will even say, well, if we're not born sinful, we don't have a sinful nature, then why did Jesus come to die for us? You see, what they're saying is that God had to send a sinless son, who many will say bypassed this original sin curse, which is a lie, because of the virgin birth, because he did not have a father. They'll even say that it was passed on by the father, that it's passed on. Even though Jesus came by the seed of a woman, they'll say that it was passed on, it's passed through the male line. There's no scriptural support for this, okay? But my point is, if you say that it's their nature, that it's your nature, then you're unable to ever obey. Therefore, you need someone that was able to obey for you, who did not inherit this nature, which, by the way, to say that Jesus was not made and tempted in all points as we are, denies that Jesus Christ came in the flesh. This is the spirit of Antichrist, okay? This is what John was talking about. He was describing the Gnostics. The Gnostics said that they were born that way, that they were born sinful, that they would sin until the day they died, that it was their nature and there's nothing they can do about it. So therefore, if we just believe that Jesus came to obey for us, who bypassed this sinful nature somehow, which denies he came in the flesh, spirit of Antichrist, if we just believe that, then we will be saved, because we cannot change our nature. So this is why John called the Gnostics deceivers and antichrists, right? The same apostle who said, little children, let no man deceive you. He that doeth righteousness is righteous, even as Christ is righteous. Okay? John is defining deceivers as those who say we cannot be righteous even as Christ is righteous. And the very next verse says, he that commits sin is of the devil. Okay? John says, whosoever is born of God does not sin. The deceiver wants you to believe that it's your nature, that you're born that way. Just like the Gnostics, the Antichrist, the deceivers, John called them, deceivers and Antichrist. Professing Christendom, folks, is infested with a Gnostic mindset. And this Gnostic mindset that they've been deceived by essentially says that you can sin just like Satan deceived Eve, the same old original lie, that ye will not surely die. That you can sin and God will still accept you, right? That Christ's righteousness, Christ's own righteousness will cover your sins, and then God will pretend that he doesn't see your unrighteousness. He will only see Christ's righteousness. He'll pretend that he doesn't see it, even though you remain in unrepentant, unforsaken sin, unrighteousness. God will pretend, right? And that he will overlook it, right? And because you never overcame, you never actually overcame. And this is the people that Jesus is speaking to, the many Jesus is speaking to in Matthew 7:20-23. He says, many will say to me on that day, Lord, Lord, did we not prophesy in thy name and cast out devils in thy name and do many wonderful works? And he says, I will tell them, depart from me. I never knew you, ye that work iniquity. Iniquity is sin. He's defining who they are. They are workers of iniquity. They were sinners. They were still sinners. In other words, they were professing him as Lord, and they remained in sin. And Jesus said, I never knew you. Depart from me, ye that work iniquity. Okay, that's all I have for today, folks. God bless. Take care.